Now, Darren and Anita with your Grand Strand Artist Spotlight.
All right, folks, on the phone with me, I've got Edna Wright from Honeycomb. Edna, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for asking. Weather's good. Well, looks like it's going to be good, but I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Well, I tell you, we talked to your husband yesterday, Greg Perry, and I was aggravating him a little bit about you guys out in California have the nice 80-degree weather, and we're freezing on the East Coast.
That's so cold. That's just, what else can I say? I lived in Detroit for about three, maybe 4 years, and I lived sometime in New York, and from time to time during the winter, I'll be in New York with my sister. So I know the snow, and I don't miss it.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm right there with you. If I could get to L.A., I would be there in a heartbeat doing that. Right. Well, I was going to say you brought up your sister, so and if folks don't know that, just a little, I guess it's a trivial type thing, is your sister's Darlene Love.
She most definitely is. And a lot of people say, is she really your sister? And I go like, yeah, same mom, same dad. She looks like my dad, but now she looks like my mother. It's wonderful to have a sister, an older sister that you admire so much, really, admire her so much, the accomplishments and the things that she's done in this business, and to say I'm just like, she's like the rock and I'm sort of like the pebble, which makes it really good. Exactly.
Well, is she one of the reasons maybe that you got into the entertainment industry or music business?
It is, because I was on my way to be a school teacher. I really was. I was still in, I had just gotten in high school. I was 14 years old when she called me and asked me if I could do a date with a guy named Phil Spector, and I said, who?
Right.
And she said, a guy named Phil Spector. He wants to do some work, and I want to introduce him to you. And I said, okay. I was like 14, and she was really the reason. Even then, it had not really, the magnitude of it had not really grasped my heart for the passion for it that I got later on as I began to sing. Then the passion came in for it, for singing and for being who I was. So, yeah, she's definitely the reason.
Well, is that, after all of that, I guess her getting you into that like that and you seeing that, is that when the Blossoms were created?
Yeah, actually, the Blossoms were created in the 50s, like 58, 57, 58, and they still sang even when she went with Phil Spector, Darlene Love, the Blossoms, and then when they did the Bobby Sox and the Blue Jeans, there were still Blossoms. But after she got out of the Bobby Sox and Blue Jean era, then she went right back to Blossom. So, yes, they were going on.
And then I've just researched you very well, I guess, to bring the listeners as much information as I can about Edna Wright. Sure. And what I find cool about this, too, is you've done work with Ray Charles and the Righteous Brothers. Oh,
God, yes. Ray Charles was probably such a phenomenal teacher. I worked with Ray with Mary Clayton, if you've ever heard of that name. Mary Clayton is a hell of a singer.
Right.
And I met a lot of people. And actually it was a summer stint because I was like 18 years old. So my mother and father were like, who? Ray Charles. But knowing that I had people everywhere we went and everywhere Ray Charles troops stopped, my mother and father had friends, church friends, and relatives that checked on me everywhere I went. So it was kind of a cool tour. And only thing that I learned when I was a child, I learned how to say no. I learned how to say no before I said anything. That was to drugs, sex, anything. I just had enough sense to say, no, I don't do that. So I was really cool. The Righteous Brothers were brought in with Darlene's era, and that was like in the early 60s.
Right.
And the Righteous Brothers, meeting Bill, Darlene and them, had put a show together along, and they decided to move on with the Blossoms, so they no longer wanted to background them. So that's how I came into play. That's how I came in a lot of times on Darlene. She couldn't do it, so she said, but my sister can do it. So that's how it would, that's how I met everybody.
So you guys really sort of worked together somewhat in the early days.
Oh, my God, yeah. If she couldn't do it, I did it. And she'd be in London or she'd be in Las Vegas, and I'd be in California, and she'd say, Ed, I need you to do this. And I got this guy, Lou Adler, he's going to call you. And I said, okay. So I do the job. Dionne Warwick's, Burt Bacharach's going to call you. And so that's how I do it. And I'd just write in, and I'd fill the gap. And so they'd go like, oh, she works. And I'd call Carolyn Willis, who I had met through Darlene and doing work with Phil Spector. And, we hammered it out, and it worked.
to the Honeycomb days. Now, after all of that, from what I'm seeing on some of your bio information, is when Honeycomb was formed or when you formed Honeycomb.
It would have had to be after the Andy Williams show.
Okay.
We did Burt Bacharach was doing he was the featured artist, guest on the show, along with Dionne Warwick. And she needed somebody, and so Burt said, well, I don't have any, so we came in and did the background, and it was Shelley and myself. And one of the other girls that we normally use apparently couldn't get with us or something. So she said, I got a girl named Shelley Clark. And I said, okay. So she called her, and that's how we started, really. At the time, I had been to Detroit with Holland. I had flown into Detroit and had been in and listening to songs with Eddie Holland before, but I had been going by myself because he wanted me as a single.
Right.
And I told him, I said, listen, you don't have a girls group. I said, I got 2 girls in California that are great. And I asked him to watch the show. And he watched the show, and he thought it was a great look. And he said, okay, let's do a group. And that's how I started.
And that's how Honeycomb started.
That's how Honeycomb really started.
Well, I'm going to jump up to the next thing now. Now, I know you guys were the first artist signed with Holland, Dozier and Holland and Hot Wax Invictus.
Yes, I was. When I signed. Nobody had signed. They had heard about me from things that I did with Darlene, recording wise and otherwise, and so when he sent for me, we had already talked about signing, so I signed, and then after he met the girls, then they signed. So we were the first act.
Incredible. Well, now I'm going to step up to. I've got all these questions laid out for you, Edna. So I'm just sort of going down the line with our questions somewhat. Now, I know on December the 30th of this month at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where the chairman of the board is remembering General Johnson, and you're going to be in town for that performing. Yes, I am. And I'm really, really excited. I think everyone is so excited what we've been hearing about the show and everything. And I was telling you about Ken and the practice, Ken Knox and the practice of the band is just incredible. Well, my question to you is, what was it like working for General as a writer when he would write the songs, say, like One Ad or Monkey Don't Stop No Show? What was it like working for them and putting the songs together? You ever seen that commercial about that little Energized bunny? Yes. You know that he keeps on ticking. Keeps on ticking. That was General. We really had to, it was like my tongue would be hanging out. And Greg would have to sit in the booth and he'd go like, okay, General, pull it back, And he was like, we can do this. Come on, Red, we can do this. He nicknamed me. And we can do this and we'll cut it and Greg will have it and we'd forge right ahead. Wow. It was, but I look back at it now and man, I love the studio with them. Right. I loved coming in Detroit just for that, just for working with him. He and Greg always brought so much to the table, and I was so hungry and so eager to bite into it, and just take a bite of that, Right. And just, they brought me tapes, and they never sent me anything. They didn't, we were in the day of you get there and you pick it up. I would call that the true talent days, Edna. I think so. I don't want to take anything from the talent that goes on today because I have 2 kids, well, they aren't kids, but 2 children that if not for them, I would not be doing more progressive. Right. My son had to dub me in a few years ago on a song, and he would stop me and show me how to do that, and he'd say, "No, Mom, don't do so much vibrato," and and they're on me. He is so on me, it's not even funny. His name is Joel, by the way. Well, I tell you, and I want to talk about your daughter a little bit here coming up in a minute, but I'm going to step back one time because you were talking about Greg, which is Greg Perry we talked to yesterday, and you guys are married. How, and he was a writer too, how, can you give us a little insight on how that come together maybe? Let's see. It started off just like friends, dating. We really, just like after the studio, you want to go get something? Yeah, let's go grab a bite to eat. being together like you guys were and putting the songs together, you really get to know somebody doing that, too.
You do. You get a chance to know them, and then you get a chance to, when you get out of that studio is when the real, they say the real, when it really starts working.
Right.
I mean, that's when reality starts, when you come out of the studio. Because in the studio and when everything's going great with the songs, that's a whole other thing. But when you come out of the studio and come out of singing and you're just walking down the street together, that's when reality begins. That's when it takes on how I like you, or if I know you well enough to, go on my life with you.
Exactly.
So
that's a song in itself, I was going to say.
I think I'll take a note from that. I think I'll write that down.
There you go. They can make a song right there. That's incredible. Well, now talking about your daughter Melanie a little bit. Now, I know in what I've read, as you guys still tour and do a lot of things as the Honeycomb.
She joined the group, let's see, she had just came back from New York. She did Aida. She did the road show. She did the Broadway.
Wow.
And then she did Aida on the road. Then they sent for her, and she did The Lion King. She played the lead role in that, Nala. And the show closed in 2000. So I went on a tour in 2003 and 2004. And then she came from Cleveland and wasn't doing anything. So I said, hey, I can't find whoever else I needed, and I can't remember who it was.
Right.
And I asked her to, she said, I'll do it. And we got some clothes together and threw them together, and she went on the road with me, and she's been with me ever since. She still does what she does.
Travels at the same time.
She does.
Well,
yeah.
So basically the whole family is just full of talent, is what it sounds like.
The whole family is full of talent, and it's crazy. It's so crazy sometimes, but it is so phenomenal. The first time I saw them working together, Joel and Melody, it was like something out of a book. They were at the computer and they were doing music and they were doing the lyrics together and they were throwing it's just a joy to see it and to see them working together. It's incredible.
Well, Edna, here is our last question. We'll sort of wrap it up with this. As we post on our Facebook page what our listeners would like to know of Edna Wright, or a question for them to ask you. Here's the question. It says, weren't the members married to other R&B group artists?
Let's see, in the beginning, yes, I should say that. Do you remember Dick Griffey?
Yes.
He died a month or so ago.
Right.
Carolyn Willis was first engaged to him, and he went on the road with us a lot, got a lot of jobs for us, really great jobs, and so that's how I knew him. But after that, Shelley married Verdine I think it's almost 30 years ago now.
Wow.
And so she's been married to Verdine in Earth, Wind, and Fire. So, yes, she's still married to him today.
So there you go, listener. Our listener, our fan, you have your answer right from Edna Wright there for you. Well, Edna, thank you so much for being on the radio show with us today. We'll let you get on with your life and what you're doing, and we look forward to seeing you at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on December the 30th, where the chairman of the board remembers General Johnson. I can't wait to see you perform.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be hot.
All right, folks. Edna Wright right there with Honeycomb, and I tell you, you need to make it to the House of Blues on December 30th in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for the chairman of the board remembers General Johnson. It's going to be a show you won't forget.
Grand Strand, a music evolution.